This is the download recap from Sounds Profitable, the most important news from this week and why it matters to people in the business of podcasting. I'm Gavin Gaddis. The download recap is brought to you by Podscribe. You can find out more at podscribe.com. This week, we've got upcoming conference news for Q1. What would you do if you actually loved podcasting? Pushback to the article Podcasts Are Dead. And Goalhanger crosses 250,000 paid subscribers. Let's get started. All right, so there's a few big things coming up in Q1 of this year vis-a-vis live events. I've collected coverage of all that throughout the week here into one quickish rundown. First up, South by Southwest 2026 has unveiled new speakers. Among others, Spotify co-president and CTO Gustav Söderström is slated to appear at a South by Southwest keynote this year. As has been covered previously, this year also marks the incorporation of Evolutions by Podcast movement into South by Southwest's Business of Podcast programming. March 13th through 15th, Evolutions will act as a home base for podcasting within South by, all with free admission, though pre-registration is now live and strongly encouraged because there is building capacity to keep in mind. Before March, though, we've got On Air Fest in February. This week, an official release from On Air Presents revealed an already stacked guest list. Rest in peace to the Wythe Lobby when it's time for Alec Baldwin's session has gotten even bigger, including Pushkin Industries music interview podcast Broken Record, recording a live episode at On Air Fest with composer Wycliffe Jean. This year, the Ambies from the Podcast Academy will be presented at On Air Fest the night of February 23rd in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. The Academy has 32 categories to judge this year, with the full list of nominees provided in a linked Hollywood Reporter piece in today's episode. Categories include Best Ad Read and Podcast Advertiser Innovator Award, both of which are sponsored by Sounds Profitable this year. I also have a bit of an announcement myself about this. I will be at On Air Fest this year to cover the event. I'll be interviewing folks from all over the podcast industry, and I'll be producing a brand new podcast directly from the halls and chilly streets of On Air Fest. So stay tuned for more about that in the coming weeks. Oh, one last thing about this. Quick reminder for Sounds Profitable partners out there listening. On Air Presents has provided us with discount codes for partners planning on attending. If you've not booked your On Air Fest pass just yet, hit us up on the official Sounds Profitable Partners Slack or shoot one of us an email for more details. After years of researching what drives podcaster burnout, Tom Webster argues there's a common methodology that needs to be reversed. Most podcast development cycles can be charted out with the core words behind those steps: what, how, why, and who. A system that should be reversed so that it starts with who you want to make content for. A quote from the article, quote, "You have to start here, and I don't mean with a demographic or an avatar or a target market. I mean a specific human being. When I say start with who, I mean a person. What's their life like? What are they worried about? What do they wish they had more of? Everyone who gives you their attention is a whole human with a life as rich and complicated as yours. This isn't market research in a traditional sense. This is basic human curiosity about the topic you're asking them to spend their finite, precious time with. Never forget that regardless of topic, a podcast has to be an entertainment, and you can't entertain humans if you aren't deeply attuned to them." End quote. The freeing aspect of this is, as an individual, a podcaster has far more flexibility than a huge content production company or studio. They have to use audience surveys and abstract ideas out of data representing massive communities. Podcasters can actually form bonds with their audience. Replies, comments, Discord servers. There's so many ways to make content for a specific audience and then get direct feedback on how that's working. Continuing down the waterfall, why would a person want to listen to this hypothetical podcast? How should it be formatted? At that point, the final step, what should go in the episodes themselves, is largely an automated process because the steps prior have already taken any sort of effort to figure out the show's audience, and thus you know what they want and what format best meets their needs. If a producer podcasts like they actually love podcasting, they would innately desire to know their audience, connect with them, engage with them, understand what they want from the podcast. A process that, if done right, creates an endless font of ideas and creative fulfillment that feasibly could stave off burnout indefinitely. The Times has published a piece titled "Podcasts Are Dead, It's All About Video Now." Writer James Marriott makes the argument that video podcasting's growth is a signal of podcasting's devolution, where shows are destined to outright replace podcasts as a concept until entropy has reached its final step and video podcasts are simply episodic YouTube videos. Lower Street CEO Harry Morton does not mince words in his rebuttal. Even with legacy examples of TV coming for radio, claims of video killing the radio star have been exaggerated. A quote from Morton, quote, "At the end of last year, Cumulus Media and Signal Hill Insight shared with us that 92% of podcast consumers listen. Only 8% only watch podcasts. Of those 92% who listen, do they only listen? No, many of them watch as well. But to say that audio is dying is complete rubbish. Growth and consumption are two totally different jobs, and audio is doing the consumption bit just fine. Video is a distribution multiplier, not a replacement for audio." End quote. I'll back that up with one final sentence to end this out. Podcasting is doing just fine. UK-based podcast company Goalhanger is celebrating having crossed their 250,000 paid subscriber milestone. To provide some further context on what that means for both Goalhanger and the industry, Pod News has done some math, and you know I love sharing data. Presuming subscribers are paying an average of £6 Great British pounds, that's around £20 million in annual subscriber income. Presuming half of that is Apple Podcast premium subscriptions, that's between 1.5 million and 3 million GBP going directly to Apple annually through Goalhanger. And the premium experience is worth the effort on Goalhanger's part. With Pod News presuming around $20 CPM for 4 hypothetical ad slots that these premium subscribers would have heard if they listened to the ad versions of these feeds instead of the premium ones without ads, they estimate the overall loss of potential advertising dollars amounts to just $2 million USD, which means that potential loss comes to just under a tenth of the overall estimated subscription revenue made by selling premium ad-free feeds. Finally, it's time for quick hits. These are articles I've covered throughout the week that didn't just make it into top stories, but they are still worth including in your weekend reading. For this week, I've got Canadian podcasters, listen up real quick. The CBC is about to launch their 2026 call for pitches. Starting Monday, February 2nd, and running through April 1st, Canadian podcasters of all stripes can pitch ideas for 4 core umbrella feeds run by the CBC. You can check that out starting February 2nd at cbc.ca/pitch. Podscribe has grown their verification stack with the addition of radio air checks and team sign-up links. The former automatically detects and logs radio ad placements, while the latter allows for smooth onboarding of large teams quickly. Oxford Road's new Orbit study looks at the world of health and fitness podcasts and how their ads perform outside of the January New Year's resolution rush. Amplify Media founder Stephen Goldstein writes about the liquid content era podcasting finds itself in, as well as examples of how to best approach liquid content. And finally, a fun one to end out today, Realm has announced they are handling distribution and ad sales for the first official Sonic the Hedgehog audio drama with Sonic the Hedgehog Presents The Chaotix Case Files, a narrative podcast that drops this coming Tuesday. That was the download recap brought to you by Podscribe and Sounds Profitable. I know I go through the stories fast, so quick reminder, in your show notes, there is one link you can click on that'll take you to today's episode post. that'll show you every link I just talked about. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis. Our producers are myself, Brian Barletta, and Tom Webster. And the final, most important person in all of this is you. Special thanks to you for listening as I brought you all the top stories from this week in the business of podcasting. Robot.
Download complete.